Alright guys, so in this video we're going to make some fixes to the header here, which I've already done, so we're going to walk through them and we're going to get this done. I've only done them in my browser so far, so let's go through them. The first one is the navbar nav here. We're adding a margin of 200 pixels on either side to kind of squish these two together. Now as you get smaller, obviously there becomes problems, but let's assume everyone has a screen size over 1,000 pixels. So I'm going to copy this rule and we're going to apply that to navbar, navbar light, navbar nav. So right here is fine. Navbar, navbar light, and actually these two need to be connected. And then navbar nav. And we're just going to apply 200 pixels left and right. There we go. Now you'll see there's a problem with this, and that's because we've set this, the A element, equal to 50%. We need to undo that. So let's go ahead up here and let's look for the 50% width. We're just going to remove that and save it. Refresh, there we go. Now what we need to do to get the little bit of top and left border on the top of it, we need to set the LI to padding. We need to say 0 pixels padding on the top and bottom, and then 20 pixels left and right. Awesome. That's not what we want, because we also need to apply some style to the before element. So let's add that in. This was the LI, I think. Yep. So on the main nav, I don't think I'm styling any list items in that yet. So down here where we added the other style to the navbar, let's say navbar dash light, navbar nav li, and let's set the padding there. Save, refresh, there we go. Now we need to move the before element to left equals 0 pixels, and there we go. This is the end result. So we've just kind of shoved all of the tabs in closer together by adding margin to the left and right. And then we've, made these a bit smaller. And if I had other pages, you'd see that that would follow, but we don't yet. So on the before element of the nav li item, which is here, I believe. Yeah, that's the active one. Need to set left to 0 pixels. Refresh, and there we go. So that's the main navbar all fixed up and looking like the Pip-Boy. Actually, the border on the top of that active tab is a bit higher. It goes to just under the T, but that's okay for now. We're going to focus on these right here. These need to be a bit smaller. They need to be a bit closer together, and then they need to fade out, kind of. So let me jump in here, and the active needs to also be styled. So active right there. Set the font size to 22 pixels. Let's try 26. That looks a bit better. Background is transparent. It's going to be important. Border 1 pixel, solid, transparent. And this is also important there. So this is going to affect every link in the nav tabs. So we have nav tabs down here and the hover one. But let's go ahead and style nav tabs li a. And those changes did not take effect. At least the font size didn't. Let me see if I can just set the font size to important, just to kind of circumnavigate the over-specificity that is Bootstrap, and that worked. So what we need to do is talk about a new selector in CSS called nth child. And this lets you choose numerically based on the existing elements there. So what we can do is we can say nav tabs li a nth dash child, and let's say 1. And it's kind of like a function there. It opens up in brackets and you have to pass a number in. Set opacity to 0.6. I'm going to save it and refresh, and we get it on all of them. And that's because the nth child needs to be on the li, not the a. Save, refresh, and there we go. The first one, it has its opacity set to that, as you can see. So I'm obviously going to set this to number 2 and then duplicate this and make the next one even more faded. So I'm going to set this to the third child, and I'm going to set this to 3. So let's save and refresh, and there we get that fade out kind of look. We also need to jam those a bit closer together. So let's remove some of the padding here. Where's the padding being set? Right here. So let's set this to 5 pixels. That's going to mess that up actually. 1 sec. Padding, let's set this to 5 pixels top and bottom, 10 pixels left and right. Let's save and refresh and see how that looks. That looks a little better. It's kind of exactly what we want, except that should be a little more faded, I think. So let's set this to 0.5 and this to 0.2, see how that looks. Refresh. There we go. Looks a little better. And then when we tab through these, we're going to update that. We're going to add classes maybe to make the current one fully opaque. Might do that. Now another thing you'll notice is that status is pushed over here, so it looks like it's in some sort of container. So let's go ahead and actually put that into a container in the index.html. Right here, I think we originally had a container, then we took it out. So div class container, and then div class row, and then div class call 12. And then I'm just going to copy these and delete them, re-indent the entire thing here, and then drop those closing tags in there. Save it and refresh, and it looks a little better. It's not pulled directly under the stat tab, and that's because maybe we added a bit too much margin to both sides, but that's okay. This looks a little better. Now in the next video, we're going to be starting on the main UI here, and from what I can tell, we might just be able to put a bar on the top in the center, and then a row with some spacing and 2 bars there, and then yeah, that's probably gonna be what it is. So we're gonna need an overlay over this image, so we might just set this to a background image.